Now, I think it has been said before that on all sides we can certainly agree that that the general approach is that we want to have sensible, responsible legislation. Every government would say that. I'm going to focus in this topic here just on Part A of this, and just one word of this Part A, which is economically responsible development. Now, I do recall many years ago when I was living in the Soviet Union, a man approached me and said, we've got 1,000 kilometres of forest that away, and there are bears there, and bear skins would be popular to sell in the West. And I said, well, listen, if you're going to shoot a lot of bears, you're going to be damaging the environment, because they're really quite critical for the safety of the environment in the forest. And his response to me, and bearing in mind that it was a time of perestroika, it was a time here of great poverty, nothing in the shops, he said to me, I don't care about the children or the grandchildren, it's about now and my children now. So the money now is important. And the consequences, basically, be damned. That was certainly not responsible. I could see why it was like that. And I'm reminded of something more immediate, and this is actually the Barnett government in the last months, or the Barnett government with the Row 8, and my incandescent rage at seeing how the Environmental Protection Agency had been steamrollered to allow the vandalism of a section of that, knowing full well there was going to be an election imminent, and knowing full well the outcome was not going to be positive for the government. That, I thought, was highly irresponsible, and I'm sure a large part of the population agreed with that. So here we have a question of what is responsible. The government of the time might well think it responsible, but is it really, or is it just expedient at this moment? And then we look at the questions here. We've got the environmental aspect, the social aspect, and the economic aspects of a responsible development. And to be honest, these are three competing needs. Because what might be sensible economically might not be sensible environmentally. So where are the heavy points going to be? Where are we going to make that decision? And these are issues, I think, which need to be managed by the government of the day. And here we see the question here about agencies, systems, and processes. Having been through a similar system, I'll tell you another story. It's a true story. One of the prisons here. And they wanted to put in an X-ray machine, because people who are fighting in prison, as they often do, not the staff, the prisoners, and if they have a broken bone or a suspected broken bone, they need to go for an X-ray. And sending a prisoner out for an X-ray requires 2, maybe 6 officers to accompany that person, which is always a problem, because that's a manpower issue, womanpower issue. And so they wanted to install an X-ray machine, and so the process started. Now, we're talking here about processes and systems. So we looked at a room, said, oh, it's a small room, okay, and there's a machine here, I have to get an appropriate machine, so the boxes were ticked, and then we said, oh no, it's too expensive, and so the careful decisions of the medical officers were overruled on the basis of cost. So anyhow, $750,000 later, a machine was installed in the room to be inspected by the radiographers board, who then condemned the whole thing and said it's not fit for purpose because the room is too small. So $750,000 had been spent and lost. And no one was held responsible because the appropriate boxes had been ticked. Our pathway was deemed to be according to the requirements of good government. So a waste of $750,000, which could have been avoided if we'd simply had good processes in place. And I would think that most of us who have been involved in any form of government would realise that the processes are leaving room for improvement, shall we say. So the agencies, the systems and the processes which are now standard throughout government seem to be more designed for slowing things down rather than actually getting things done properly. In fact, if we had this in private practice, we'd probably find people going bankrupt a lot more than they are now.
Members, that concludes the time allocated to non-government business.